Ginipetti. Surya. Ginipetti.
A very good evening. It's the 7th of November 2022. Welcome to Prime Time News here on TV1. For the Newsfirst team where the people come first, I'm Senita Senanayaka. Before we take a look at the stories in detail, let's take a look at the headlines.
...201 detainees at the Kandakadu Treatment and Rehabilitation Centre arrested. Sri Lanka's Gunatilaka appears in court on sexual assault charges. Bail denied. National Child Protection Authority summons police officers charged with giving electric shock treatment to kids. Indian Navy plans to stop Chinese spy ship from entering India's EEZ. Navy seizes local fishing boats with heroin worth over 6 billion rupees.
On to your top story this evening. 201 detainees at the Kandakadu Treatment and Rehabilitation Centre were arrested for unruly behaviour. The detainees who occupied a building at the facility surrendered to Sri Lanka police on Monday evening. Military spokesperson Brigadier Ravi Herath told Newsfirst that 514 detainees were under the control of the security forces by 4 p.m. on Monday. In addition, a manhunt is underway to locate 33 other detainees who escaped from the facility.
Sri Lankan authorities said on Monday that scores of detainees held at the Kandakadu Treatment and Rehabilitation Centre had fled the premises following Sunday night's brawl. According to reports, the cause for the brawl was a dispute over the use of a bucket used for bathing at the premises. 547 detainees were at the Kandakadu Treatment and Rehabilitation Centre at the time of the brawl. A dispute had arisen between a detainee from Galle and a detainee from Colombo over the bucket at the bathing area. Thereafter, detainees had banded together as the Galle group and the Colombo group. One of the group thereafter attempted to approach the armory at the premises, and that escalated the brawl. Sri Lanka Army personnel attached to the 9th Field Regiment Sri Lanka Artillery, who were assigned to the security detail of the armory, had foiled the attempt, and shots were fired into the air to control the situation. One group of detainees, around 200 of them, occupied one of the buildings at the facility and defied orders to surrender. At the same time, around 300 other detainees surrendered to security forces, while another group had fled the premises.
5 detainees were injured. One staffer was also injured. 236 detainees remain inside the facility and are not stepping out. They are behaving in an unruly manner. The others have been moved to the Senapura facility. They were the victims of the brawl. We are planning on arresting the others. 12 detainees had fled and the surrounding police stations arrested them. In addition, some of them have gone into hiding due to the brawl. They also surrendered. On the
29th of June 2022, unrest broke out at the Kandakadu Treatment and Rehabilitation Centre, where around 400 detainees escaped and one was reported dead. It was reported that words were exchanged between an inmate who was brought to the premises and a counsellor at the premises over the possession of tobacco. Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe has called for a full report on the Kandakadu Rehab Centre incident. The President's media division said that the necessary steps needed to be taken to avert a recurrence of such incidents have also been called for, following discussions with Justice Minister Vijayadasa Rajapaksa.
The Sri Lanka men's national cricket team returned to the country on Monday, concluding their T20 World Cup campaign in Australia without Danushka Gunatilaka. Although Sri Lanka did not make it to the semi-finals, the country directly qualified for the 2024 edition in the West Indies and the US.
Sri Lanka had to make its way to the T20 World Cup after playing in the qualifying round. Sri Lanka made it to the Super 12s based on their performance in the qualifying stages. In order to make to the semi-finals of the ICC T20 World Cup, teams must make it to the top 2 spots in either Group A or Group B. However, Sri Lanka could not make it to the top 2 in their respective group, but managed to come into the top 4. Although Sri Lanka did not make it to the semi-finals, the country directly qualified for the 2024 edition in the West Indies and the United States. Consultant coach of Sri Lanka cricket Mahela Jayawardena and veteran cricketer Sana Jayasuriya returned to the country last night. I believe the team is in a better position than before. We prefer moving forward. However, we need to take a step back at times. That is how the team is created. I hope the team will move forward.
Sri Lankan international cricketer Danushka Gunatilaka has been refused bail by a Sydney magistrate after he was charged with sexual assault. His defence lawyer Ananda Amarnath called the decision disappointing, adding his client was considering appealing to the New South Wales Supreme Court.
Sri Lankan international cricketer Danushka Gunatilaka has been charged with 4 counts of sexual intercourse without consent and was held at the Surrey Hills police station before appearing in handcuffs and a grey t-shirt via video link at the Downing Centre local court today. Reports suggest that he was refused bail by the court as he was a foreign national and he has failed to prove his residence in Australia.
He's holding on well considering the circumstances. He'll be disappointed, clearly. We put our position to the court. There was no unacceptable risk, but the court disagreed. So we have to accept the decision. We are considering an application to the Supreme Court.
Gunatilaka, who was in Australia for the T20 World Cup, was arrested at his central Sydney hotel in the early hours yesterday. New South Wales State Police said yesterday 6 crimes squad detectives had investigated the alleged sexual assault of a woman in Sydney's eastern suburbs last week. Police said the pair met up after communicating for several days on a dating app. Detectives said the pair had then arranged to meet. Police said the pair had drinks and went for something to eat before going back to the young lady's home, and the woman later alleged that, quote, the male assaulted the female a number of times while performing sexual acts upon her, end quote. The Executive Committee of Sri Lanka Cricket decided to suspend national player Danushka Gunatilaka from all forms of cricket with immediate effect and will not consider him for any selection after being informed that Gunatilaka was arrested and charged with sexual assault of a woman in Australia. Furthermore, Sri Lanka Cricket said it will take all the necessary steps to promptly carry out an inquiry into the alleged offence and, upon conclusion of the aforementioned court case in Australia, steps will be taken to penalise the said player if found guilty. Sri Lanka Cricket emphasised that it adopts a zero-tolerance policy for such conduct by a player and will provide all the required support to the Australian law enforcement authorities to carry out an impartial inquiry into the incident.
We'll go in for a short commercial break. Stay with News First.
News First, main sponsor.
25% for 2 months, 25.5% for 4 months. Valuable FD.
Anka eke arakshita itigini petti. Surya Gini petti.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD. 25% for 2 months, 25.5% for 4 months. Valuable FD, the symbol of stability.
Ivan satutin inni wiring karala. Wiring kiruwe Eslon Polycon yodala.
For your safety and the protection of the wires used in networking and AC wiring, Eslon Polycon cable trunking.
Lovatama eliya denna dilena Surya. Amataka vinnema nathi namage Surya. Mohotin dalvena gini kura Surya. Kavadat namagat gini petti Surya. Kavadat namagat gini petti Surya. Kavadat kotanat samage vishwase dinagat. Anka eke arakshita iti gini petti. Surya Gini petti.
Ivan satutin inni wiring karala. Wiring kiruwe Eslon Polycon yodala.
For your safety and the protection of the wires used in networking and AC wiring, Eslon Polycon cable trunking.
Welcome back to the news. Today is the ill full moon Poya day in Sri Lanka, and it is the last Poya day of the Vassana rainy season, and a number of important incidents occurred on this day.
According to the chronicles, the announcement of the future Buddhahood of Maitri Bodhisattva, the first Buddhist missionary activity by 60 Arahats, took place on ill full moon Poya day. The ill full moon Poya day marks the end of the rainy retreat period, or the Vassana Samaya. The bhikkhus assign themselves to indulge in the temples and observe bhavana meditation and other religious activities, and ill Poya can be considered as the end of the rainy season. Many religious events were organized at temples across the island on ill Poya day. A Dhamma sermon organized by the office of the opposition leader took place at the historic Tantrimale ancient Rajamaha Viharaya.
We would not be able to gather all that we desire, the way we want. We need to be competitive. Lord Buddha preached that the human mind has desires that cannot be pleased no matter how much is achieved.
An afternoon Sambhuta Puja took place at the Shakya Malakaya opposite the head office of the capital Maharaja Group, and it was supported by ICL brands.
On this full moon Poya day, many are drawn to temples to engage in religious deeds. However, there are monks who sacrifice their nights to protect themselves and their temples from encroaching wild elephants. This report is from Walsapugala Hambantota.
This is Walsapugala, a remote area in the southern district of Hambantota. This name is familiar to Sri Lankans, as in recent times villagers protested and fasted for more than 100 days, demanding separate forest areas for the wild elephants. This is the Sunandarama Pirivan Viharaya in Walsapugala, and this is a common sight at the temple every night. The temple is home to around 85 monks, including many novice monks. The novice monks who receive their Pirivan education at this temple spend sleepless nights due to the threat posed by the wild elephants that enter the premises after sunset daily. Following the electricity tariff increase, the monks in this remote temple are unable to settle their electricity bills as well. Hence, the light for these temples come in forms of lamps and bonfires.
If we do not light up the premises, the novice monks will face the dangers of the wild elephants. We are compelled to light the fires to save money. But if the premises is not lit up, the elephant enters.
The elderly monks at the Sunandarama Pirivan Viharaya have been working tirelessly to protect the lives of novice monks who are educated under trees and have to skip meals. The situation experienced by these monks showcases the suffering of the people of Walsapugala and surrounding villages in Hambantota. The people from Walsapugala protested for over 100 days, calling for a solution to the human-elephant conflict. The then leaders of Hambantota promised to solve the issue. However, with the sands of time, those promises turned to mere deception, and the numbers of lives lost in elephant attacks bears testament to that.
An individual has died in an elephant attack at the Udavalava Elephant Holding Centre. The victim was 24-year-old Ishara Madhushankar, a resident of Panahaduwa in Amblipitiya. 2.5 years ago, Ishara chose to work as an elephant caretaker. Ishara had been taking care of an elephant by the name Sudumanike for several months now. Sudumanike was in the custody of the Elephant Holding Centre based on a court order. While attempts were being made to transfer the elephant to a different centre this morning, the elephant had attacked Ishara. The injured Ishara was rushed to the Amblipitiya Divisional Hospital, where he then succumbed to his injuries. This elephant has carried out an attack once before. When the relevant officials were notified, no action was taken. An animal was left in the care of the same people. They say this elephant has been very aggressive for several days. We urge action be taken and an investigation be carried out.
The National Child Protection Authority has launched a separate investigation into an incident where grade 5 students from a school in Millenia were brutally beaten for allegedly stealing money from a school teacher. Sri Lanka Police is also conducting an investigation into the incident. Several grade 5 students from the Millenia Primary School in Horana were accused of stealing money from the bag of a school teacher and were punished by the school teachers, and the teachers themselves handed over the students to the local police. Parents allege that students were taken away by police, intimidated by electric shock treatment inside the police jeep and dropped back at the school. News First contacted the chairman of the National Child Protection Authority, Uday Kumar, over these allegations.
These children have been hospitalized. Thereafter, they were inspected by the GMO, who reported that they were tortured. Based on the facts, the National Child Protection Authority has considered this a serious offence. Any wrong committed by a child below the age of 12, according to Sri Lankan law, cannot be considered a crime. Tomorrow, the police officers in question, the principal and the teachers have been summoned to the National Child Protection Authority to record their statements. We will also produce them in court tomorrow. These children were given an electric shock treatment inside the police jeep, and the vehicle was also seized by the NCPA as evidence. This evidence will be used to prove the claims in the case.
Sri Lanka Police said that an investigation was launched over the incident, and police spokesperson SSP and attorney Nihal Talduwa told News First that the inquiry is led by an ASP of the Panadura range. We'll cross over to another commercial break. Stay with News First.
Ivan satutin inne wiring karala wiring kiruwe Eslon Polycon yodala Polycon enne Eslon niwasin hinda Tripurama Vishwasaya satuta petrila.
For your safety and the protection of the wires used in networking, electricity and AC wiring, Eslon Polycon cable trunking, suitable for white walls, prevent spread of fire, double lock technology. Ask for Eslon Polycon by name.
Welcome back. A joint operation on the high seas south of Sri Lanka led to the apprehension of 300 kilograms of heroin worth over 6.6 billion rupees. A special operation conducted by the Navy in coordination with the Police Special Task Force and Police Narcotics Bureau of Hambantota led to the interception of a local fishing trawler carrying over 300 kilograms of heroin worth approximately gross street value of over 6,600 million rupees and apprehension of 6 suspects on the 5th of November 2022. The drug-carrying trawler and the suspects were brought to the Galle Harbour this morning. Moreover, the Navy and Police Special Task Force held a dinghy which is suspected to have been made ready to fetch the stock of narcotics from mid-sea and arrested 3 males and 1 female suspects involved in the land network of this racket in an operation mounted off Nilvela and its beach area on the 6th of November. Including the latest seizure, the Sri Lanka Navy has held drugs with a gross street value of over 22.5 billion rupees during operations in 2022. The Indian Navy says it will not allow China's Yuan Wang 6 to enter the country's exclusive economic zone that extends up to 200 nautical miles into the sea.
Indian media reported that the Yuan Wang 6 is a spy ship of the People's Liberation Army Navy sent to the Indian Ocean region to track India's missile test, and from the APG Abdul Kalam Island off the Odisha coast. She is officially registered as a research and survey vessel. While foreign vessels, including warships, can freely sail to the exclusive economic zone, Indian law forbids any survey, research or exploration thereby a foreign nation without permission. In 2019, the Indian Navy had forced the Chinese research vessel Shiyang-1 out of India's exclusive economic zone after it was found lurking near the Port Blair. The Shiyang-1 is also considered a planned spy ship masquerading as a research vessel. That move by the Indian Navy had led to a diplomatic row with China, but India had put her foot down. According to sources, the Indian Navy will do the same this time around if the Yuan Wang 6 attempts to enter India's exclusive economic zone. The Yuan Wang 6 left Chinese port of Chiangyin in mid-October and was positioned near Indonesia on Monday. Indian media quoted senior officials and said that the destination of this vessel not marked to any port but to open sea, and that is where she will have to remain. The source said if Bangladesh allows the Yuan Wang 6 to dock at the Chittagong or Sri Lanka grants permission to her at Hambantota port, she will be lying extremely close to our coastline and tracking everything.
Meanwhile, 8 Sri Lankans are among the crew detained in Equatorial Guinea over alleged oil theft in Nigeria. This vessel was detained in Equatorial Guinea after it has reportedly entered the Akpo oil field without permission. 8 Sri Lankan sailors who are part of a 26-member crew of MT Heroic Idun, an oil vessel, have been illegally detained by Equatorial Guinea since the 14th of August. Apart from the Sri Lankan sailors, the crew also includes 6 Indian sailors and a national each of Poland and Philippines. As per the crew, their vessel was arrested by an Equatorial Guinea naval ship on international waters on the 12th of August and brought to Luba port under naval escort and threat of legal action. The vessel was arrested based on a request made by Nigeria.
We are arrested in Equatorial Guinea, and today the vessel is being handed over illegally to Nigerian authorities. We were arrested by Equatorial Guinea warship on an announcement by Nigeria from international waters on 12th of August and brought to Equatorial Guinea on 14th of August. Since then till now, we have been kept as detained in Equatorial Guinea. We have been repeatedly investigated by Equatorial Guinea authorities and Nigerian naval authorities also in Equatorial Guinea. Although no harassment was done to us, living conditions were reasonable, various people suffered from diseases. It has not been a pleasant experience, and we do not know how the situation will be with us when we go to Nigeria. And the governments are trying to help us. The Indian government is actively trying to help us. Our company and the owners are also trying to help us. But in this part of the world, it doesn't seem to be working, and this illegal detention and illegal handover of the vessel to Nigeria is something beyond anybody's control, and this is all illegal operation.
They have inspected all the accommodation and the common spaces, cargo tanks, and they could not find anything. They could not find a drop of oil from our ships, and they were cleared. And we were like 11 people on board the ship. Like last 3 months, we were suffering with the fatigue. We had to share all the work. It is a very big ship.
The Nigerian Navy says it is conducting an investigation into the activities of MT Heroic Idun, a supertanker arrested by Equatorial Guinea forces over alleged crude oil theft in Nigeria. The Chief of Policy and Plans of the Nigerian Navy headquarters said, based on relevant inquiries from the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, the arrested foreign tanker MT Heroic Idun was not cleared to be in Ekpo oil field in Nigeria. He also stated that the supertanker, which disobeyed a directive from the Nigerian Navy to return to Bonny anchorage for interrogation, was later arrested in the Equatorial Guinea waters with the help of sister agencies within the Gulf of Guinea region. A spokesperson for the Nigerian Navy confirmed that the vessel is on its way back to Nigeria for further investigations. He also said after the investigation is complete, the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation will determine whether or not the vessel and its crew will be prosecuted by the federal government. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited in September said it loses $700 million every month as a result of oil theft and vandalism at terminals. Now in more local news, the annual conference of the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress took place in Puttlam.
Supporters of Minister Nazir Ahmed experienced strong protest from those present at the premises. Nazir Ahmed's supporters were removed from the party. The minister is abroad and he had sent these men by paying them to sabotage this forum. I am the SLMC mayor from Puttalam. We will not allow them to sabotage this.
Our
MP is from Batiklo. We are not allowed to enter when our MP is here. We are all from the SLMC. I have come here after spending 5,500 rupees for the bus. There are 55 of us. SLMC leader Rauf Hakim attended the conference under tight security.
Sri Lanka's opposition leader alleged that the government is preparing to appoint several new ministers. The gamble on ministers has resumed once again. The Crow had listed 38 state ministers and the positions were given. Cabinet positions were given based on the needs of the Rajapakshas. More ministers are to be appointed. I would like to state that no one from the Samagi Jana Balavega will join this bankrupt government. They are trying to pave the way for the Rajapaksha loot to be retained with them. Under our government, not only will apprehend the rogues, we will also recover the stolen money. The current president has the opportunity to do so. He can give the responsibility of apprehending these rogues to Shani Abesekara, who has not been given any duty. The reason why that is not being done is that the Rajapakshas need to be protected. That is item number 1 in the national agenda. That is why we want immediate elections to elect a people-friendly government. The opposition leader was speaking at the Medavachya Balamandala meeting of the Samagi Jana Balavega. Sri Lankan peacekeepers serving in the United Nations have been recognized for their services in Mali.
Troops serving the Sri Lankan Combat Convoy Company deployed under the United Nations Multidimensional Integrated Stabilization Mission in Mali were recently awarded Excellence in MINUSMA Sector East badge in recognition of Sri Lankan soldiers' adventurous operations with excellence. Brigadier General Stefan Anderson, MINUSMA General Officer commanding of Sector Eastern Headquarters, after arriving at the Sri Lankan Combat Convoy Company base camp, pinned the Excellence in MINUSMA Sector East badge on all convoy members and praised them for their excellent duties under challenging circumstances. In the past 6 months, tribal terrorist groups in Mali have intensified their fierce, violent acts targeting their rivals as well as UN troops serving the landlocked country. Similarly, their brutal and fierce terrorist attacks have posed a formidable threat to all UN troops deployed for UN peacekeeping assignments.
The UN's annual climate summit, COP27, has opened in Egypt, with more than 120 world leaders expected to attend the crucial event in Sharm el-Sheikh. This year, the summit will be focusing on 4 areas of the climate crisis: mitigation, adaptation, finance and collaboration.
This UN climate conference is a reminder that the answer is in our hands and the clock is ticking. We are in the fight of our lives and we are losing. Greenhouse gas emissions keep growing, global temperatures keep rising, and our planet is fast approaching tipping points that will make climate chaos irreversible. We are on a highway to climate hell with our foot still on the accelerator.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe is also in Egypt to participate in the COP27 conference on climate change. He met with the new UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and congratulated him on his appointment. In addition, the President also met the President of Slovenia for talks on the sidelines of COP27.
Biz Fast.
Oil prices slipped earlier today but held near $100 a barrel as the dollar weakened.
Oil prices edged lower today on demand concerns linked to China's stringent COVID-19 containment policy, but remained close to $100 a barrel on support from a weaker dollar and recovering Chinese crude imports. Brent crude futures fell by 39 cents or 0.4% to $98.18 a barrel by 1/6 global Mediterranean time. US West Texas Intermediate crude fell by 47 cents or 0.51% to $92.14. Both contracts dropped by more than $1 a barrel earlier in the session after Chinese health officials at the weekend reiterated their commitment to strict COVID-19 containment measures, dashing hopes of a rebound in oil demand from the world's top crude importers. The US dollar sank against the euro today, and sterling pound was supported by risk-on sentiment and a rally in European stock markets.
In international news, Iranian lawmakers have urged the country's judiciary to show no leniency to protesters in a letter cited by state-run Press TV on Sunday, as thousands of people continue to rally on the streets despite the threat of arrest.
Iran is facing one of the biggest and unprecedented shows of dissent following the death of Mahsa Amini, a 22-year-old Kurdish Iranian woman detained by the morality police, allegedly for not wearing a hijab properly. In an open letter signed by 227 of Iran's 290 members of parliament, Press TV reported that the lawmakers called for protesters to be taught a good lesson to deter others who threaten the authority of the Iranian government. Iran has charged at least 1,000 people in Tehran province for their alleged involvement in the nationwide protests over Amini's death. Their trials are public and have been underway for more than a week.
In some news from Ukraine, the mayor of Kiev has warned residents they must prepare for the worst this winter if Russia keeps striking the country's energy infrastructure, and that means possibly having no electricity, water or heat in the freezing cold winter months.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said late yesterday that 4.5 million people were without electricity. He called on Ukrainians to endure the hardship, saying Ukrainians must get through this winter and be even stronger in the spring. Russia has focused on signing Ukraine's energy infrastructure over the last month, causing power shortages and rolling outages across the country. Kyiv was having hourly rotating blackouts yesterday in parts of the city and the surrounding region. Kyiv plans to deploy about 1,000 heating points, but it's unclear if that would be enough for a city of 3 million people.
And that brings us to the end of this edition of Prime Time News here on TV1. For the Newsfirst team, where the people come first, I've been Sanita Sena Naik. Take care and stay safe.